Hello, teachers in the car or wherever you are. Welcome to the Teacher Squad podcast with Heather Wright and me, Jane Considine. It is episode 9, Spring Term.
It certainly is, and this week I'm going to be blethering on about wonderful book fairs and exciting new book clubs.
Yeah, and we're going to be checking out. We know I'm definitely menopausal, but is Heather perimenopausal? We will find out.
I shall try and remember, but we're going to be geeking out about morphology, and we're going to think about how we can end the reading wars with our wonderful guest, Professor Cathy Rastle.
And I'm going to be talking about let's have a pencil or a pen in our hand when we are modelling, because it should be live, and that's really important. It's not death by PowerPoint.
No, none of that. Shall we get started on this very exciting podcast?
Yes, as long as you don't repeat yourself, babe.
Well, I can't promise that. Let's get started. Hey Jane, have you had a good week?
Oh, I have had a good week. I've had a marvellous moment when I have given a school a whole CPD bomb of reading training, and senior management, a member has stood up and said, I love this when this happens, by the way. I just want to give SMT a big fat snog when they say, okay, everybody, let's take some time. It's not a race. We've got to digest this. We don't need to rush. Maybe we'll come together next week and we'll talk really carefully about how we're going to proceed, and we're going to share the load. And at the end of that meeting, we're going to have a clear step pathway. I know you're excited, but we're not going to run before we can walk, because we need to talk about this again. And I love that. That is just so sensible when an initiative... I'm an initiative. I'm one of them, I think. When I arrive, it still needs a lot of... Can you say it?
No, not tonight.
Not tonight. But one of them. But yeah, I love that. What's going on in your world, honey?
Oh, I like that, Jane. Because I think sometimes, we forget that we're human beings, and our brains function in the same way as children's, and we wouldn't just go, we've taught it you once, there you go, you've got it solved. We wouldn't do that, would we? So Great to hear that, Jane. I'd like a
little
CPD,
bite-sized chunk.
I'd like a CPD bomb from you. That sounds like the kind of explosion I'd like. Yeah, love bomb. Yeah, I'll have one of those. Whoosh it over. Oh, Jane, I'm great. Well, it's World Book Day week, so this episode drops the day before World Book Day. So there's lots of book love going on and buzz, and that makes me happy. And I've been book fairing today, and I've got loads more this week all around Cornwall. So that's really nice. And it's nice, isn't it, when the parents kind of go, oh, he never stops reading. He's always got a book in front of his nose, and they tell you those nice stories. But as well as World Book Day week, we at Reading Rocks are launching this week our Reviewers Pupil Book Club, which I'm rather excited about. So going to be on our website, lots of reviews from the people that matter, from the children. So we've been sending out for the past probably 6 to 8 weeks bundles of new books for book clubs all across the country. And we're starting to get back the little book reviews from both the children's voice and the educator's voice as well. So we're going to be sharing those, and I've been chatting lots on X to different people about book club and what that means. And it's a nice buzzy book feeling.
Oh, it's popping off in your world, isn't it? Hey, I don't know if you're going to have time, because I know you're going to be busy, but at 10 o'clock on World Book Day, if you're not, serving the community with a plethora of books, you can come to the YouTube classroom at 10 o'clock, have a cuppa, and I'm going to read you a story. So yeah,
Ooh. Have you
it's all
Have you
happening.
chosen it, Jane? Have you chosen your book, or
Yeah,
is
I've
it?
chosen it, but it is top secret. It's a big reveal, and guess what? It's book themed, because what is the point of World Book Day
Mm.
unless we have at the heart of it the wonder of words and the magic that is books? So that's exciting. So yeah, tune in 10 o'clock on World Book Day. So yeah, if you just fancy, a little bit of a decompress, gather the kids around, and well, it's grandma as well. She'll come along as long as she's not too. Let me have a look for the PG word for a little bit inebriated. There isn't one. There you go. Just
That'll do.
she sometimes she sometimes hits the sherry. Do you know what I
The
mean?
sherry.
Anyway,
Oh, what a kind of grandma drink. Oh, nice. On actual World Book Day, I'm going to that large junior school that I told you about, and I
yes.
emailed ahead, and we've been talking about really nice school dinners, and said, can I book a school dinner for Thursday? And deputy head emails me back and went, don't get too excited. The cook or the chef, because the proper chef's off sick. Oh, like,
What?
yeah, what?
What? I've been
So,
dreaming of Spotty Dick. I've been dreaming of it.
yeah, I'm roly
Oh,
poly, but we shall see. So I'll come back next week and tell you what the rating is. But so last week,
yeah,
Jane,
yeah.
I was harping on about praise, and
Yes.
making good use of purposeful praise. What have you been thinking about? Have you got a sentence of the week to share with us?
Yeah, I have. I've got my knickers in a twist about, well, we actually know people, don't we, that have got a Blue Peter badge, and we love Blue Peter. But it's this that's on my mind. Look, it's not Blue Peter. When we teach writing, it's not, here's one I've prepared earlier. It's, we've got to
Uh,
be dead careful. We've talked about it before, but it's worth coming back to death by PowerPoint. That's not how we teach writing, and the process of writing is so elusive. But we've got to teach it well, because ultimately the kids have got competencies under their belt, are going to be more creative, are going
yeah,
to be more experimental, but we have got to teach them stuff. So when we demonstrate, it's not clicking through a PowerPoint of, well crafted writing. It's a pen in our hand, whether that's real or electronic. And then we move with this kind of powerful instructional strategy mode, so that it provides a concrete example for the kids of how the writing process works. We've got to demystify it. We've got to break it down into actionable steps. And we're going to demonstrate real time thinking.
yes.
It's not just about the end product. And why we're demonstrating real time thinking, it's also not about Mrs. Amazing. Like, oh, look at me being amazing. Because I know I'm amazing, Heather. I know.
I don't need a class of 30 pupils to validate me.
I am not worried about my self-esteem. I am amazing. But we do that because we're showing them how to have writer's resilience. I've
Yes.
hit an obstacle here. How can I end this sentence? It's not just about words. Like, what are some great endings? And that we revise ideas. They see us crossing out, making choices, putting things in the writerly bin, getting them out again, trial and error, continuous improvement. So I sometimes see people go, I mean, I'm not quoting anybody here, but there does seem to be a lot of, is there a PowerPoint? What's the PowerPoint? Oh, and you know, I've got a gun. I'm going to use it on myself. I was like, oh, what? It's just, yeah. Anyway, as part of that, I just did want to tell everybody about the new STA guidance that we can go and download now from the DFE. They've just revised it about independent writing, and it was there before. it's still there. And I just want to shout about, because I think people get their teacher knickers in a right old twist. We are allowed, prior to independent writing, to have a shared curriculum experience. We're allowed to do that. It's not illegal. We can live things together. We mustn't underserve any pupils. It must be a level playing field for knowledge and context. And you can't write in a vacuum. You need a reason to write. So I'm going to urge everybody to read the guidance. And I'm just going to read from it now. And I'm going to put a link in where I've summarised it. Writing can emerge from a text topic. You know what I mean? Mayans, hit me up. A visit. Can you afford the coach trip? No, but we can walk somewhere. Wicked. A curriculum experience. Yes. In which pupils have an opportunity to discuss and rehearse what it is to be written about. We've got to really embrace that. And we need, what else is independent? That pupils are using their own ideas. Yes. They making their own choices. Yes. But this doesn't mean we don't teach them how to plan well. It doesn't mean that we don't teach them how to edit well, because they have to do that all independently. But when it comes to the independent process, they do have to plan by themselves and edit by themselves. Okay, self and peer and group. Everyone can have a chop in, as long as it's not miss or sir. But it's like, I don't know how easy we can make this, but independent writing, Heather, it is their own ideas. And I don't know if people think I'm saying something different, but I'm definitely not. But yeah, go and download it. And I've also put a link into the summary that's really pithy on one sheet of A4. It's actually two. Don't quote me. 2 sheets of A4.
One sheet. 2. Okay.
2, really.
Oh, Jane, I have to go back to the Blue Peter bit, because
yes,
it's Tracy Island for me. Come on, that was the best sticky back plastic. Here's one I made earlier. Yeah, and also, do you remember when they used to make those advent things with them wire coat hangers?
Chris
and then
Dingles.
Really flammable tinsel, and then put real candles in. Those were the good old days.
Who's doing the risk assessment for that flammable load of
we didn't have them.
Foof.
We didn't have them. back in the day, you didn't need a risk assessment. You just looked out the window and went, brilliant, there's a rainbow, let's get out. Yeah. But I'm all for the experience.
I'm showing my age now. This is how much younger you are compared to me. But when it was Tracy Island era, I was working on the toy department in Rackham's in House of Fraser, and I got a promotion on the back of, it was the only time the toy department ever made profit, and I was there. It's just like, right, okay, I'm going to take all that glory. Nothing to do with Thunderbirds, but I'd thundered up the ranks. Courtesy of the Tracy Island. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, no, but thinking about the writing, it is really important, Jane. I think, and independence. And I think somebody like you who gets to go around lots and lots of schools, we really, as teachers, we should be able to get out and see more schools, but time's pressing and, cost-wise, it really is important to see, people's spectrum of what independence is, and whether it truly is independent. We're supporting them.
And the thing is,
we're getting them to that point, but we do have to let them feel that feeling of doing it on their own and feel that success.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I really don't know, what team they think I'm on. Of course, the greater good of all children as writers is that they can showcase what they can do independently, and we just got to make sure that, you know, we teach them well, so that when it comes to them kind of glimmering with the very brightness they can to show us their full potential, that's, you know, that's where they can really showcase it. Interlinked with that aspect of independent writing, it is truly an honour going around the country and just seeing the top draw quality of some of this work, and just interviewing children about how they get their ideas. And you know, we mustn't what I see is actually really creative kids who've got so much to say. Got so much to say. They find it hard to say it all in the time they've got. So yeah, I think we've got very creative children, and we've got to recognise that that needs to be treasured and recognised and nurtured into writing. You know, we don't want to say you've got to do. No. Let them choose, you know, and not being so prissy about it. You know, instead of a the, have a that, let them go. Let them go. They've
Let
got
him
some great ideas.
go. Let him go. Oh, breaking out into musical theatre again. It's got to be time to move on.
Yeah, moving
Sorry,
on.
everyone. Sorry, everyone. I apologise. Don't go away. I promise I won't sing again in this episode.
Oh.
Should we have a guest, Jane?
Yes, let's do it. I'm so excited about this guest. She is groundbreaking in terms of her work, her international work about reading. Can you tell us more, please, about Cathy Rastle?
Yeah, so we've got Professor Cathy Rustle, and she's won a prestigious prize alongside Professor Kate Nation and Professor Anne Castles for their work on ending the reading wars, which we are keen to find out a little bit more. She is a professor of cognitive psychology at the Royal Holloway University of London, and yeah, she's done lots and lots of research around reading and language, but is very keen that research is used in practice and it's not just this country, it's around the world, to impact on getting all children to be able to be successful as readers. So super keen to have a chat. Shall we get her in?
Yeah, great. Well, Cathy, it's an absolute honour to have you here, and I've read your papers in detail about the reading wars. It's a big document, but it's a really compelling read. For those teachers who haven't found it yet, could you summarise for them about some key ways about how we can end the reading wars, and even perhaps what the reading war is all about?
Yeah.
So let me start with what the reading wars are all about. And this is a debate that's gone on for years or decades, actually. And it's really a debate about how we should approach the problem of teaching children to read. And on the one, I'll use the rights, not sides anymore. This was back in the day. You know, on the one side, people said, "Oh, we have to use explicit instruction. We've got to teach children the nature of the writing system using phonics." And on the other side, people said, "Well, reading's a natural process. If we embed children in a literacy-rich environment, they'll sort of learn to read, they'll learn to love reading, and it will come naturally." And I think the research is clear that reading is not a natural act. We're not born to read. We have to be taught to read. It's a process that takes around 10 years of instruction, dedication, and practice. And really the challenge for researchers and teachers is try to articulate how we do that, how we facilitate that journey for as many children as possible. So I think when I think about how we end the reading wars, well, first I'll say about the paper. So the paper was an attempt to distill a huge body of research, a body of research that's been gathered over about 35 years. And to distill this in an accessible way that teachers can understand, that policymakers can understand, and to say, we should really be using this in the classroom. So when I think about how we can end the reading wars, I guess I'd have a few messages. One, as a researcher, I learned that it's very important to communicate accessibly, right? To try to explain the main points of the research in a way that as many people as possible can understand, and not to get weighed down by all the details that researchers look at. So that's one thing, to explain the why. Why do we do this?
Yeah.
I think another aspect that's very important about the reading wars is that I think for many years we were too fixated on phonics. Phonics was all it is. And phonics is very important, right? Children have to understand the nature of the writing system. But reading is a 10-year journey. It takes 10 years to learn to read. So there's a lot that comes after phonics. And we should be talking about that, just like we talk about phonics. And I think, finally, what I've really learned over the last 10 years is that developing a successful approach to reading really requires collaboration between researchers and teachers. For many years, I think, people thought that, researchers would do the research, we'd pass it on to teachers, they'd implement it. But actually, researchers don't even really know the right questions. And it's been this collaboration over about 10 years that's, particularly in this country, it's a very strong collaboration now. And I think that's the main way that we end the reading wars.
That's really, really good to hear. Go on, Jen.
Would you say, Kathy, would you say the two words balanced literacy are two words that summarize it in your mind, or do those two words change as your understanding of it develops?
Well, I think balanced literacy is actually a curriculum that is not consistent with what we know about how children learn to read. So balanced literacy was really a political solution to make whole language more palatable. And it doesn't have at its forefront a strong systematic phonics base, which, basically there are some researchers who don't agree, but the vast majority of researchers would agree that starting the reading journey with strong systematic phonics is absolutely key. So I would not subscribe to balanced literacy programs.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's worth clarifying because, words matter, don't they, in terms of, what are our next steps as teachers to practically bring to life some of the core guidance. And I know you've got lots of guidance beyond just the paper that is very pithy and accessible to teachers about things that you've been able to show through the research you've collected, that actually these are the things we should be doing beyond phonics.
It was good to hear you say that in the UK you found that there is a great collaboration between the teachers and the researchers. But in the UK, do you think that teachers across the profession know enough about reading instruction research, or are we still on a bit of a journey there?
Well, I think that there's never a time when we're all going to know enough. What I would say is, when I started thinking about how to translate this body of knowledge about 10 years ago, what I'll say is that the level of knowledge compared to 10 years ago, it's incredible what teachers know now about how children learn to read. And I think it's been for a few reasons. One is that we actually have a policy framework that's very evidence-based. And I know that policy framework was hard to bring in. There was a lot of resistance and uncertainty about it, but actually it's very evidence-based. And I think that's provided, the framework for teachers really to dig into understanding that evidence. So that's one good thing. Another is that we've had these organizations like Research Ed springing up, right? Where teachers say, we want to learn about the evidence.
Yeah.
Researchers say, I want to talk about the evidence. I want to meet teachers. And, for me, it was actually a meeting at Research Ed that really shaped what I thought our Reading Wars paper should look like, right? It was listening to teachers and understanding, where their knowledge sort of was, that helped us really frame that paper. And so I think these organizations, really grassroots organizations where teachers are sharing their knowledge, have really made a big difference. And what I'll say is the knowledge of teachers in this country, I've never seen anything like it anywhere else in the world. So, I think it's terrific. I think one thing that teachers, where should we go next? I think that there's a lot of work to do on what comes after phonics. So phonics is a finite body of knowledge that can be relatively easily distilled into a package. What comes after that? Fluency, morphology, comprehension. All of this stuff it's less researched, but it also really requires that teacher skill to be able to bring the evidence to life. And I think, when I read books like Chris Such has a beautiful book on teaching reading in primary schools,
Yes.
where he talks about how he delivers sort of comprehension instruction, and he sees this like a pointillist painting, and that's something that research really can't do, right? We can't bring this to life in an effective way in the classroom. So I think that, beyond phonics, I think there's a lot of work to do, and for researchers and teachers both. And the other thing I'd say is that, often when I go into a secondary school, there are children who enter secondary school that haven't learned to read very well. And I think a lot of secondary school teachers don't know very much about how children learn to read, and that's kind of relegated to the English department. So I think there is a need to have just wider knowledge of the basics of reading across the piece. But I think, teachers are in very, very good shape. It's very impressive. Whenever I go to school, what I see, I just can't believe the difference from 10 years ago.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope the teacher squad are buoyed by that.
yeah, I think there will be. I think it's really interesting as well, some of the work you've been involved with, Kathy, around morphology. We know there are 70,000 words in the Oxford English Dictionary, but if children can understand, the smallest units of meaning and get to, your prefixes, suffixes and your roots, and get under the patterns of language, then in terms of kind of whole words, they can have 11,000 under their belt quite quickly. Clean gets you to unclean, cleaner, cleanliness, and so it's kind of a very economic way to kind of speed up the kind of fundamental core stable parts of language, and I think that's really interesting, and I think we're on the tip, and a lot of work I've done with the spelling book on that tip of getting children to understand kind of morphology chunks as a kind of the next level of kind of patterning for children to unlock.
Yeah, well, I think morphology is I usually talk about phonics because, phonics, we need to get children started on the right path, but morphology is my love.
Yeah.
And I think not a lot of people know about morphology, but when we look at our language, as you said, we have, you can take 77,000 words and reduce them to 11,000 roots. And once you know those roots, that just gives you incredible power. If you know the parts of words, the incredible vocabulary building power.
Yes.
And we know that skilled readers, once you become skilled, we know that people break words into their parts within 200 milliseconds, right? So it's one of the fastest processes. It helps us get to the meanings of these words. And another thing I've just done, it's not yet published, we've just built a big corpus of children's books. So this is a corpus of children's books, 1,200 books suitable for kids from 7 to 16. And we're looking at what do the words look like in these books. And a vast number of these words are morphologically complex. And these tend to be words that children won't know from their spoken language experience. They won't hear them on TV. So they're going to be unfamiliar words, things like unmysterious, right? This is the sort of word that can occur in a book. And if you know the parts of words, you can break this down, right? You can get to the meaning of that, even if you've never seen it. And I think, the research is pretty unclear on whether morphology instruction is beneficial or whether it could be scaled up. But I certainly think that the power of language, it derives from morphology. That's our way to engage with texts.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Or we could listen to you talk about morphology for ages, couldn't we, Jane?
Yeah, we definitely could.
Geek out on it. It's really amazing. Kathy, do you think you've got something from your research that stands out as like, do you know what? If every teacher could know this, or is there a sample of practice in some of the schools or teachers that you've worked with? They think, do you know what? If I could just share that with more people, what might that be?
Well, I think I can give you an example from my research, but I can also give you some examples of the practice that I've seen recently in schools that's just been really exciting. So I think from my own research, I'd pick a recent paper we've done about how people learn. And we compared giving people explicit instruction to a sort of discovery learning condition in which just people sort of got to experience a writing system, and we sought to see, well, what do they find out about that writing system? And so we bring people into the lab and we have them learn to read in a new writing system. So these are characters that they haven't seen before, and we train them for about 2 weeks. And in one group, we tell them up front, we say, this is how it works. So it's a little bit like phonics. You tell them how it works, and then they do their 2 weeks of training. In the other group, we give them 2 weeks of training on these words. They have lots of meaningful tasks, sound-based tasks, and we see, what do they know about this writing system at the end? And we really thought, well, people are statistical learners. And so, after 2 weeks of training, they're going to have learned about this writing system. But what we found at the end of training was that for those people who had not received the instruction, less than a quarter of them had figured out how the writing system worked.
Wow.
So they couldn't use the writing system to read new words, right? And those had the explicit instruction, they could use the writing system. They could read new words that they hadn't seen before. And it really just showed us that, explicit instruction, it's a way to be efficient, right? Teachers don't have very much time. Whenever I go into a school, teachers are busy, right? The school day is packed, and why would you want to teach someone like when it takes 3 months when you could teach them in 3 weeks, right? So that's really what that study was about. It's called the dramatic impact of explicit instruction. And we were just floored by the impact that just a 30-minute session of explicit instruction, how that transformed outcomes, 2 weeks later. So I think that's a piece of research that stunned me. And I think that's really relevant to teachers, because it's really about limited instructional time and making sure that all children can come to a high level of understanding. I guess you've asked me also about sort of practice that I've seen. And I go to schools a lot now just to find out what teachers are doing. And I've been really excited by some of the things I've seen recently. I went to a set of schools in Southampton, and they have created their own phonics program, which is very fun. And what I loved about these schools is, they have such a culture of reading. When you ask any child, what are you reading? They're all like, I want to tell you what I'm reading. I'm reading this book. I'm reading this book, right? Everybody's got a book, right? So and it shows that phonics is fun, right? It's really fun. It's fun to learn to read. It's fun to be able to read, right? So that's kind of one example. I got 2 more. Another example, I'm very interested in fluency. So once children pass the phonics screen, how do they become fluent? And how do teachers do that? And I went to one of the STEP Academy schools in South London, and this is incredible. Every single class in that school, the first 45 minutes, they're doing reading, some kind of reading, whether it's phonics or comprehension or fluency. And for the fluency, they have very high energy lessons. All the children are reading aloud every day, even for 20 seconds, you're called on, you read aloud. It's none of this sort of go outside every 2 weeks and read for the teacher. It's every single day, practicing your reading. And reading's a skill, it's like learning to play the piano. You've got to practice every day. It's, to get that retrieval. And I think that the final thing, and it's sort of England wide, is I went to the Wandle English Hub a few weeks ago, and these English hubs are hubs for disseminating good practice.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw there are the people who are working in this English hub are so knowledgeable about the research, but also how it pertains to practice. And they're bringing other teachers in to share that knowledge. The way that I went to an observation and they had headsets where the facilitator was sort of explaining to us what the teacher was doing. So the type of instruction or the type of technique and how they were sort of translating the research. And I thought that was so interesting how teachers are managing to translate the research, but then share it in these practice forums for good practice. So I think those three examples, they got me really excited. And, really anytime I visit a school in England now, I'm excited about something because the practice is so good.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Thanks for sharing those examples.
Yeah, Kathy, in terms of comprehension, I would say that in the UK, we're really good at phonics. And I think that, for the last 2 years, with the Reading House from the Education Endowment Foundation, they've really pushed the fluency room, but to kind of get children to read deeply and understand well. I'm particularly excited by comprehension monitoring and kind of situation models that we show in a very visual way as children read. Are they pulling down the correct bits of information and interconnecting it with other information they're either getting within the text or with knowledge they've got of the world beyond the text? And I think that needs some high impact, explicit instruction. And, I've put that at the heart of some of my work that I do with teachers about, explicit modelling. I think there is, for me, if you want to put the roof on the Education Endowment House, that level of what is your reading brain doing at this moment, so critical. So yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? I think there's so much within reading. Like you're getting excited about morphology, and I'm on the situation model end at the moment. Yeah. But I sometimes get excited about your bit as well.
Yeah. You get excited about all the bits.
I would say that comprehension is the big beast. It's very difficult, and I think one of the real challenges is that sometimes we have an assessment framework, and I don't know if that's always helpful in thinking about how to teach comprehension, because it compartmentalizes aspects of comprehension into, let's do the inferencing bit, let's do this bit, and then you tend to teach that way, right? And I think, there's not a good solution to this problem. And when you look at reading tests of comprehension, they don't tend to hang together very well. So it's a construct that's very difficult. It's a difficult construct to measure, and it's a difficult one to teach. So I think that's an area where we need much more research and the collaboration with teachers to figure out really a new path to really perfect that.
Yeah, I agree with you, because you've got to get entwined, don't you? Kind of meaning activation, comprehension monitoring, and inference generation, and all of those three meshing together with our knowledge and understanding of the world. I mean, my head's just exploded trying to summarise that, but it's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it?
That's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
That's it with reading, though. It is, a many complex thing. And as you said, as teachers, we're trying to be as efficient and time savvy as possible. But the best way forward is leaning into the research and working together. Kathy, it's been really great to chat to you. I feel like we've learned a lot, and I think we could enjoy chatting to you a lot more. If people want to find out a bit more about the research that you've done, where should they head to? Where can they find it?
Well, they can just search for my name, Kathy Rastle, on Google, and they'll come straight to my website. And I've got all my papers there. They're almost all openly available, or people could always email me, and I always email back.
Fantastic.
Oh,
That's
Kathy,
really
that's
good.
amazing.
And,
I love it
might
that
we
you're
find you?
open.
Yeah. It's the excitement about collaborating, isn't it? And the genuine working together. And might we find you at a research ed soon? Where might we bump into you? Have you got any of those booked in?
Oh gosh, I'm doing a talk on morphology for Nate, and that's
Great.
next week, 2 weeks time. I don't have a research ed booking lately, but maybe one of these days soon. I think I did a research ed last year. But if people want to find out more, there's also a Google Talks. So if they look for me on Google, they'll come up with a video that's quite a nice introduction about how we learn to read.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. And we'll
Thank
share
you,
those in the
Kathy.
show notes for everyone. Thanks for joining us, Kathy.
All right. See you later.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye. Well, I want to read you a poem, and I want to dedicate this poem, Heather, to all the overwrought, overwhelmed, time poor teachers who, and you know who you are, who are also parents. And this is kind of the feel of this is a little bit, are you okay, hun? And that feeling when you're torn between parenting your own children and professionally supporting teaching a class of 30 or more. And this is dedicated to all the teachers who get called mum 3 times a day. And this poem is by Holly McNish, and it is called Mother Me. Sometimes I want to be the one someone else brings the tea to, tucks under the covers. A story, another, the light left on dim, kiss on the forehead, forced into rest. Sometimes I want the towel wrapped around me, my body rubbed lightly, pats drying skin as I step from the shower, my head to be towelled, my hair to be brushed. Sometimes I want my fears hugged away too. Life called and told I've to stay home from school. And sometimes I want someone to mother me, just like I mother you.
Oh, I like that, Jane. I was thinking about I quite like it when somebody brushes my hair. But my daughter doesn't like it when I brush hers.
No. Don't try and brush mine, I'll kill you.
We just got a new brush, a pop brush, and it promises no screams. When you've got wavy hair, it's a bother, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I've got some matted undercarriage for my naturally curly bits. So yeah, you can brush the top, but don't get at the nape of my neck, I mean, right.
Yeah, of course. Nobody wants to hear about your undercarriage, Jane.
No.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, please.
I've got a bit of a picture book. So last week you were talking about, I don't know whether it was last week or the week before, you said we need a bit of MC grammar, dropping some beats.
Yeah.
So that got me thinking about this lovely picture book, but also it's written by Sarah Taghome. It's illustrated by Binny Talib, but I'm going to be out and about on tour with Sarah with her new picture book called We Are the Wibbly, which I'm really, really excited about. So I thought I'd share one of her previous picture books. It's called Sam Francisco, King of the Disco. I've not read any of this before, have I? I've just had a thought. Do you know what? Have I shared this before? I'm going to read it again.
I think you have.
I think I've read it before. I'm going to read it again.
You've got to do It's for fluency, babe. You got to reread it. That's what you got to do. We've
It's
just
all
been
right to
told.
reread. I was thinking, look at me, I'm really prepared. And then thought, oh man, I've just got this little moment that I feel like I've read it before. So, well,
I
if
think
you're a
it's
big fan, you'll
yeah.
know which episode it is. But I'm going for it. I'm surrounded by other books. I could pick something off the shelf, but I'm going with this because I like it.
Go
San
for it.
Francisco, King of the Disco. Midnight struck. The whole town slept. Out of the window, something crept, covered in glitter from head to toe, singing softly, meow, meow. It was San Francisco, off to the disco, with Queen Bee Jean looking fierce in green, Blaze McFades sharp in shades, Frederick Fish Pie rocking his bow tie, Cosmo Wildcard in a pink leotard, and Billy Bob Bananas still in his pyjamas. The beats were loud, the lights were bright, the cats drank milk and danced all night. They twirled and jumped, they bobbed, they sang, breakdance, can, hip-hop, headbang. But Buzzkill Bill at number 2 was woken by the hullabaloo. He told his dogs, go earn this bone. Snoop and Scar chase them home.
And I'm going to tell you who I'd get off with at that disco. Cosmo Wildcard.
Cosmo Wildcard in the pink leotard there, look.
Yeah, I'd definitely be my guy on that night. Yeah.
I was thinking
I'd have a little rub of that.
Blaze McFade's sharp in shades. I thought that was a bit of you.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm
you know
Billy
what?
Bob Bananas still in my pyjamas. I think that's me.
Who's that fish in Finding Nemo? Nemo's mate who goes swims around the bowl and she can't remember what happened anyway. Yeah, Dory. So yeah, it was new to me anyway. You can tell me anything about your life, any deepest, darkest secret. I'll forget it anyway. Tell me again, I'll be shocked all over again. Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
Give it to me
maybe it's like a perimenopausal brain, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought I was bringing something different until I actually started saying it in the podcast moment and thought, I feel like I've got deja vu. Sorry, gang.
Listen, I like things twice. I like it 3 times. Don't quote me. Right. I've had a great time, Heather, as per. But I'm afraid it's the end of the podcast road. And it is big love.
From me, Heather. And it's heartbursts.
From me, Mrs. Jane Considine.
Full
Get the full name.
See you next time, everyone.
Bye.